Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast. Welcome back. It seems like we were only yesterday. I'm going to keep saying that because we really were probably. You wait for 3 months for a game week and then you get 8 at once. It's time to prepare to game week 34 plus. My name is Joe.
My name's Andy.
My name's Az.
Andy, what's in the show?
Yeah, lots to come for this week or this game week. We're looking at broken shields, so well-owned players that the community is considering dumping due to poor returns. So a few players on that list. We're also looking at triple ups, mostly focused around Manchester again. So both City and United, great fixtures. And at this point, there's probably too much choice, trying to figure out which of the three from each side to get. Spurs playing Whipping Boys Bournemouth next. What could go wrong with backing Mourinho and Harry Kane? And then we're going to keep looking at the normal stuff. Clean sheets, Az is going to pick a differential, team reveals, and captaincy for Game Week 34.
Yeah, lots to get through. Let's have a quick look at how we are getting on so far. We have one more match to go. Everton against Spurs, which will take place soon. So let's go. Andy, you're doing best out of all of us. We're all about the same, but you're doing marginally better. You've got 66 points. Tell us a bit about your game week so far.
Yeah, it's just all Manchester United, really. That's where most of the points have come from. Captain Fernandes, Martial in there as well for a cool 44 points. And then I've got 22 from the rest of them. So it's actually been... It hasn't resulted in a huge green arrow because the Man United players are so well owned. I played Charlie Taylor thinking Sheffield United not really got too much goal threat. I saw that he had a clean sheet and that Burnley had scored. I thought, it doesn't matter now if Pope gets a clean sheet. I've got Charlie Taylor. Then who goes and scores? Egan, second on my bench. So that is super frustrating that I didn't play him. But it is what it is. McCarthy on my bench as well, but I'm not even beating myself up about that because Man City should have scored several times in that game, as we'll discuss later. And Foster didn't throw the ball out to any opposition player, so that was a huge plus this week. And he got 6 saves, so a massive 3 points and outscored Pope. So silver linings, I guess. But yeah, I've got Calvert-Lewin to come. But really, it was a pretty rubbish week, actually. For a 66 score, a pretty poor week, because Man United players are so well owned now. It didn't result in a massive green arrow for me. So
that's the frustration, isn't it? You know, that's a really 66, great game week, and then it's like, oh no, red arrow, not so good. And that's just because, as you said, those players that did well are so well owned. You might as well not bother having them. But if you don't have them, then your red arrow is going to be even more massive.
Red arrow.
Yeah, you're betting against Fernandes, not getting.
Obviously, we're going to talk about it later, but I'll just gloss over it now. But De Bruyne, I tweeted out about the power 5 midfield. Fernandes, Martial, Salah got an assist, but then De Bruyne and Mahrez coming in with a 1 each was a bit of a killer. So a little bit of a worry about that, but we'll talk about Man City a bit later on.
Yeah, okay. Now, Az, you're doing just a notch behind, but you also have Son to go. So you're on 68 points, but with a 4-point hit, and you got Son to go. Yeah, another Fernandes captainer. So yeah, pretty good game week, you would think.
I know, and like Andy said, a bit disappointed really because I feel like I got the captain decision right. I took a 4-point hit, and I got Greenwood in for Rashford, which sort of paid for itself. I brought Pulisic in, who got an assist. I put Sterling in, which was when I saw him in the starting lineup, I thought this could be really good. I thought he looked really sharp again, and then he gets hooked with Mahrez at 58 minutes. So that was really disappointing. The big thing was, I talked to Andy on the Breakfast Club about potentially playing the free hit. If I'd done that, I would be 8 points better off on the free hit, but I wouldn't have Son. So I would be all out. So if Son gets 8 or more, then the free hit would have been a complete disaster because I would have had more points not doing it. So I'm relatively happy because, even if Son gets 3 points or 2 points, then a free hit you'd like to think is worth more than kind of 6 points.
It wasn't a good week for a free hit in the end, I don't think. Because everyone's got loads of Man United anyway, and they did really well. And you would have on a free hit loaded up on Man City, obviously. And then probably Wolves as well, and you would have all the familiar faces.
Exactly.
And you would definitely Liverpool at home to Villa. Well,
I would have gone hard. I would have got Salah and Mane in for sure. Yeah. I would have captained Salah and got that wrong, so it would have definitely been more frustrating. But up to 75 minutes with no Liverpool attackers in my team, I was so happy, terrified, but happy. And then it all kind of went wrong a bit in the last kind of 15 minutes with Mane getting 10 points and Salah getting an assist. So bit of a shame, but it wasn't mega haul, so I can't complain to it. That was the one I was really worried about, the Villa game. So hopefully I keep quiet from now on.
Well, in the end, not a good week for a free hit, but a really good week for a bench boost. And as Andy's shown with Egan there, McCarthy, and here's my team. So just behind here, I'm on 60, but with a 4-point hit. Got the mighty Aurier to go tonight. I mean, I took a hit there and got in Mahrez and Greenwood, paid me back. Last week took a hit, got in Pulisic and Aurier, paid me back. So I'm
new Joe taking hits.
I'm in
being
profit
bold
with the hits, and if I hadn't have and people say some people say what's the point of taking hits this time of the season? Yeah, I mean you're not getting like a huge long-term gain out of them, but there's so many good players, value players with good fixtures doing well that you can make your hit back each day. So
there's still enough game weeks as well, isn't there? It's not like we're in game week 37 or 38, where at that point it would become a little bit more difficult to nail it, I'd say.
Pulisic I've had for 2 weeks, took a hit to get him in. He's paid me back more, and I envisage more points there. Greenwood, I got in as an enabler for Mahrez, and Greenwood ends up racking in a 13-point haul, and Mahrez 1 point. Note, Mahrez was my vice captain. I was very close to captaining him instead. I thought he'd be a great differential captain. I'm glad I didn't, because Salah came in at the end in a last gasp attempt to get me some points. I got Calvert-Lewin on my bench to go, so I'm still not sure what to do with Calvert-Lewin, so I'm sort of parking him a bit. But I've got Stevens and McCarthy, unexpected 17 points between them on my bench. The bench boost could be even bigger if I'd have played it. So quite a good week for the bench, and I'll talk about it a bit later. The bench boost I've still got in play. I hate it. I've realised now in this situation with the pandemic, and other people might be thinking this too. So I was in a situation where I decided to play my free hit when we came back, and I did okay from that. But looking at it now, there is no way on heaven and earth I'm ever playing a bench boost in a single game week again. because it's so risky. You could do all right. I mean, Andy did it and did really well out of it, but it's a real lottery. And at least with a double game week, you're going to get. You should, in theory, get your double points just turning up, and that's what you want. And I hate my bench boost, so I'm considering playing it game week 34 in part just to get rid of it. but
it's kind of how I feel about the free hit as well, though.
But my head says
it's really stressful.
Yeah, it is. The free hit. It's not good in a single game week. The free hit I think is better in a single game week because you can really target one fixture that you're perhaps not stocked up on. And it's good for game week 38.
But it wasn't the week for, like you said, though, it wasn't the week for it this week. Yeah. Liverpool and City would be the teams that people would go hard on.
It's the risk you take.
Just would have been awful.
On paper, though, the outcome wouldn't have worked out, but the decision to play a free hit this week is probably quite sound. And I think for me,
I was close.
On paper, a bench boost in game week 36 is probably the sensible move. So that's probably what I'll do. But you never know. So there's me with, and a lot of us with our benches there. So as you've been canvassing for some rough with the smooth, I understand it's a bit rougher this week.
Yeah, so like we just said, that it wasn't the week to free hit, but it was definitely the week to bench boost. And I'm afraid to say there's a lot of benches out there with huge points, even more than yours, Joe. So I kind of scoured the site and I scoured Twitter to try and find the worst. I started off with Benny Blanco, got 27 points on his bench. Egan, McCarthy, that kind of thing. Jules Breach actually upped him, 29 points on a bench. Added Saka to that as well. Riaz, McCarthy, Saka, Egan, 31 points on his bench. But the real king of the bench was FPL King, who managed to bench Greenwood and Egan and McCarthy. 34 points.
I said this on stream last night. I don't really have much sympathy for anyone that benched Greenwood against Bournemouth at home. I know. But the other ones, I mean, like I just said to me, Southampton, you can't beat yourself up about that. It's against Man City. And Egan, maybe that was a little bit of a mistake from my part as well. But benching Greenwood, I gotta be honest, very little sympathy. I mean, it's hard because people have got 8 really good attackers now. But Bournemouth at home, that was like...
Just to put that into context, 34 points, that's half your score, Andy, from 3 players.
It's better. It's better than half my score. Yeah, I know.
yeah, better than half your score.
It's
Amazing.
huge. I'm not saying it's not frustrating, but Greenwood against Bournemouth, I
I
can tell like it had to be
know.
played that week.
I agree. So yeah, not too many smooths. I mean, I just want to mention this rough because I thought this was hilarious. This is a guy on Twitter called Arj. He took Salah out. Decided that Liverpool didn't look good against City and he didn't want him anymore. Didn't sleep all night, and then the next day brought him back in as part of a -12 and captained him. And
But hang on. He took him out and brought him back in for a hit in the same week.
In the same week, yep.
Okay.
And this isn't someone ranked 1 million in the world, 2 million in the world. This is someone ranked 45k in the world. And to be fair, he took a -12 in the end, and he only slipped down to 55k. He still got a decent score with around 68. Had all the right players in, but I just love that. You look at his transfer history, and it's Salah out, Salah back in.
It's crazy.
Enjoyed that one. Just one smooth. There was a successful bench boost that I managed to find. United the best. Bench boosted Shelvey, Egan, and my old mate Lewis Dunk. So got around 20 points for that. Pretty nice.
Nice.
Not bad. Okay, well let's get into some of the community questions and some of the issues that they want us to discuss. So the first one I called a bit of broken shields. So I'll explain what that's about. But the picture on screen should give people a hint. Doubts for FPL managers after Villa win masks subpar Liverpool display. That's what was on the Fantasy Football Scout website today after the Liverpool match. So basically what it is you have your swords, you have your shields in FPL. Your shields are your well-owned players that do well and they protect your rank, and then the swords go in and they can get you up the rankings. But what happens when the shields start not performing? They're well-owned, but they become a bit of a liability, and the community's starting to feel a bit that way about certain teams and certain players, in particular Liverpool. So yeah, Wolves and Liverpool as well, looking a bit laboured at the moment. Meanwhile, the Manchester clubs and differentials like Pulisic, Willian, Antonio at West Ham, who we plugged a couple of weeks ago, are bringing in the points. What has become of our trusted premiums? And so here's some questions. FPL Strategy, who is incidentally my twin. We just seem to do exactly the same things each week. He has almost exactly the same career history as me as well. Which is weird. I don't know if I am actually him. I don't know. But he says, what should we do with Liverpool assets? Hold or start to move on? FPL Ruser, who is the inventor of the swords and shields metaphor, he says, which trusted high ownership players are worth selling? Broken shields, as he refers to them. And Rudam Jan, is it time to sell Jimenez? And see another broken shield? So yeah, going back over to you two. Andy, what do you reckon? This is that moment, isn't it? We've got the shields, protect your rank. They're no good if they're broken. What do you think about these broken shields?
Let me start with Wolves first, because I think that'd be a bit quicker for me to answer. I have no issues holding the defence. I think right now, what they kept 3 clean sheets in the first 4. They conceded against Arsenal. I mean, I didn't necessarily expect it, but I definitely thought it was a possibility. It's Arsenal after all. In the next few fixtures, Southampton, Everton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, I can see some clean sheets there. So I personally keep in sight. It's got no real plans to move him on. If I had Doherty, maybe it's a little bit different because he's more expensive, but I still think I would keep him. So defence I would keep. Jimenez, I see is suddenly a consideration to sell. I tweeted just a minute ago, actually. I feel like he got 2 returns, then 2 blanks. I feel like if it had been goal blank, not as many people would be considering getting rid. I think it's because it's come 2 in a row. The fixtures I just read out, I do think are good for defensive returns. Maybe not the best for attacking. So I feel like Jimenez, there's only 5 game weeks to go. He's probably not going to be. He's not going to go and get 3 double-digit hauls in the next 5 games. So I don't think there's any risk to selling him. I don't think you're suddenly going to be massively punished or anything like that. I'm personally not selling him right now because I just don't have anyone else I want to buy. Danny Ings maybe, but I would wait until the Man United match is finished or gone before I buy him. So I'm not selling Jimenez. I can kind of see why people are doing it. I feel like there's probably better ways to use my transfers. That's my opinion on Wolves. Liverpool, defensive-wise, I'm just not getting rid of Trent. I don't see a massive upside to selling him. I don't need the money. There's so many enablers right now. Again, if I'm trying to get up the ranks, I'm not sure a defender move is probably the way to go. So I'm keeping Trent. I'm strongly considering shipping Salah this week, which I do think is a little bit of a risk, I guess, because it's Brighton. And I think Brighton is probably a slightly better fixture for Liverpool than Villa was last week, because Villa have probably gone under the radar a bit. They are defending a little bit better since the restart. But I've told myself since Gameweek 33 when I captained Fernandes, I wasn't going to captain a Liverpool player for the rest of the season. And I think Brighton and Burnley are probably the last two fixtures I would consider anyway, but I'm not looking at Liverpool at all. And I said this on Breakfast Club with Az, that it's not necessarily that I think Salah or Mane are going to suddenly start getting rotated every other week. It's just they are going to make some changes as they did last week, where Origi came in for Firmino, and that does kind of hurt them a little bit. It's just not the same team. They don't have... I don't want to say they don't have the hunger, but obviously they are just playing for a points record at this point, which would be huge. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. They're getting the medal regardless. So they are going to make those changes. So that's put me off. And I'm considering putting that money up front instead.
Ooh. And
going to someone like Harry Kane, who we're going to talk about later, which is a bit of a punt, but it also gives me flexibility to move around the strikers a bit rather than spending my chance on defenders. So Aubameyang's got two nice fixtures to end. Vardy plays Bournemouth soon. Jesus plays Bournemouth soon. And like we said, they're probably whipping boys. That they're kind of the team that I'm looking to target. So I'm looking to shift the money. I don't think Salah is a must sell, but at the same time, I feel like if I'm going to move on, now's probably an okay time. Although, as I said, Brighton is a good fixture.
Yeah, I mean, in this stretched metaphor about swords and shields, Kane's a bit of a broken sword. He's the one we think, we go, 10% ownership, we'll have him. And then, oh no, my sword's broken.
Blanked again, oh no.
Oh no, he's blanked against Burnley at home. Or remember that Cardiff one? 1 point or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. That's kind of where my mind is right now. I mean, Salah, there's plenty of players you can move in one move as well, like Pulisic, Sterling maybe as well, De Bruyne if you don't have them, another Man United midfielder if you don't have them. Because right now, dare I say it, I think a lot of people maybe back the Man United attack ahead of the Liverpool one right now, especially with the fixtures. So there's plenty of moves you can do with Salah, and I just think if you're worried about captaincy, I don't see him being massively like way ahead of everyone else on the captaincy polls going forward.
I think you're right. Well, turning to you, Az, you've already gone without this broken shield of Salah, and it's sofa time, hide behind the sofa time. But is it really? I mean, I'm a Salah owner, and I think I could do without him.
I mean, the trouble is that when you back against the shields, as you like to say, you need your swords to be sharp. And when your expensive sword is getting subbed off at 58 minutes, along with another potential sword, it kind of completely nullifies the whole point of doing it. I mean, I think the thing with City is City are the ultimate swords because there is so much potential there for huge hauls. And the way I'm looking at it is Liverpool, I think, are going to sort of maybe not limp over the line, but I can't see in any of their games coming forward they're going to get big returns. Mane getting 10 points is big. I can't see them smashing any of the teams that they've got from now until the end of the season. Whereas I think City have got a couple of massive wins in them. Looking at the fixtures they've got, I mean, it could even start this week, against Newcastle at home. They've got Norwich, they've got Bournemouth, they've got Watford. I mean, they've got teams, way down the bottom end of the league, which, they beat Watford, 8-0 at the start of the season. And Watford look awful. So they've got three of pretty much the worst teams in the league, in the next 5 games. So my thoughts are, okay, I brought Sterling in, he's blanked. I thought he looks really good again, thought he looked really sharp.
Yeah.
He might not start. He might come on for 20 minutes, but he is going to get a couple of starts. And I'm just going to accept that Southampton game was an anomaly. Like Andy said, they should have scored a bucket load of goals. I mean, Sterling, with Danny Ings flying back to stop some tap-in for the Man City player.
Has he gone bionic? Is he gone bionic?
Machine.
He's not just fit. He's become a machine, a bionic man.
Yeah. He's everywhere. He's absolutely brilliant. But when you're looking at someone like Jimenez, you could move him on to someone like Ings. You look at your mini leagues, you look at people around you. I think I know Southampton have got some tricky fixtures coming up in Everton and then United, but you've got someone there who's going for the golden boot, and like you say, looks like an absolute, just crazy at the moment how sharp he looks. So that could be something like that. I think what we have got is we've got players who are the shield picks, but then we've got similar players in the price bracket which could match them or outscore them. And I think outside of having 3 United players, I think there's actually a lot of potential to get in different players. I don't think there's no options outside of United that really scream this guy's going to do amazing till the end of the season. But I do think there's potential to be a bit different. So you mentioned like Antonio, someone like Kane could do well, someone like Ings. So all you can do is watch the games, look at the members area, trust your gut, and bring in players that that you think are going to do well, because you're not going to get a better opportunity when there's so little players that you have to have in your side.
And what do you think about Jimenez as well? Because it's also worth pointing out that his wife is due to give birth at some point, and that's going to be within the next few game weeks at some point. So is Jimenez ditchable?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he's not a player. I mean, he's got 15 goals this season, but only 3 double-digit returns. So he's not a player who gets massive hauls. What he is a very reliable pick. So, he's a guy who gets 7 and 8 most weeks, I'd say. But if you're chasing these kind of explosive returns and you're looking at someone like Ings, you've got Greenwood, you've got Rashford, you've got someone like Kane. I think there are a few different picks that you could go for. I mean, even someone like, the phenomenon that is Gabriel Jesus. I don't rate him at all, but again, he looks like he's going to get minutes, and surely he's going to score against some of the teams they've got coming up. So there are options for you if you decide that Jimenez isn't quite doing it. And the fixtures aren't great from an attacking point of view. I don't think the fixtures are that great for Wolves. I mean, Sheffield United look like they've kind of sorted themselves out. They're putting in some better defensive
O'Connell's
numbers.
back now as well.
Yeah. O'Connell's back, exactly. Then they've got Everton. Ancelotti looks like he's kind of got them defending well. Then they've got Burnley away. A really tough game to go. And then Palace, I mean, who really knows what they're kind of, good 1 minute next they're rubbish. But that looks like a good game for them at home to Palace. But then they've got Chelsea away. So, and I think because they've got something to play for, because they really want this top 4, I don't think they're just going to play really open attacking football. I think they're going to be more likely to look for the 1-0, the 2-0. And I think that dents him. So I wouldn't be completely averse to selling him. I've got other things I want to be doing. I'm happy to keep him for a bit, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone sold him.
I'm similar. I'm not. I don't have a problem with people ditching Salah. I'm tempted, but it doesn't. The way I'm sort of set up at the moment, I don't need to, and I think that's the thing that I look at these players like Jimenez and Salah. If you need to, if there's other players you can spend the money on, do it. But otherwise, they're fairly reliable in a really lacklustre game. Surprisingly lacklustre performance from Liverpool against Villa. Salah still walks away with 6 points. Yeah, sure, it's only 6 points and he's hugely expensive. But it's that reliability of returns, and that's what Jimenez usually gives. And if they stop giving that, if they start blanking more and more, then it's time to move on. But I'm not kind of getting that sense from them, really. Alexander-Arnold is a keep for me. I would definitely keep him. I wouldn't be doubling up. But I just think the focus really at the moment should be on City and United. They've got the fixtures. They've got the personnel that's clicking into place. And we're going to talk about City and United shortly, but in more detail. But I think they are the teams to target, even a triple up. I mean, so for example, I dropped about 10,000 places, having Greenwood and Fernandes having 28 points from 2 players, red arrow from after that match, and looking at the live scores. And I'm thinking, you've got to at least captain one of them, or you've got to have a triple up, and that's the same with City as well. So so City lost to Southampton, but that's not through lack of trying. Southampton were immense. They were the all Italian World Cup winning defences rolled into one team suddenly, and it was incredible to watch. Jack Stevens is incredible. I'm speechless. For the podcast listeners, Joe is now speechless. Jack Stevens was amazing, and I look at that and I just think any other team, City are going to score a hatful there. And you're going to get a red arrow just by having 2 of them and not captaining them. If you've got KDB and Foden maybe gets a goal, KDB gets a goal and an assist, you could still end up with a red arrow unless you captain one of them. That's the kind of way it's going this season, and it's very annoying. So eye test for me is really important. News coming out of things. I look at City, I look at United, I go, wow. I look at Liverpool, I go, and that's the same with some other ones. So I've got some stats as well. So last 4 game weeks so far. This is with Spurs yet to play this evening. I looked at the top 10 players for goal involvement. and there are 28 players with a higher expected goal involvement over the last 4 game weeks than Salah. So there's many players better at the moment. There are 13 players with a higher expected goal involvement than Mane. So Mane's actually a bit better. If I was to have 2, if I was on a wild card, whatever, free hit, whatever, I would just go Mane. I wouldn't bother with Salah. The top 10 are, you've got a West Ham player, Antonio. He's top, actually. The highest expected goal involvement, Antonio. Those who have got him for the last couple of weeks, well done. He will continue, I think. Chelsea, 2. You've got Willian and Abraham, surprisingly. They're not Pulisic. Abraham for expected goal involvement for Chelsea. 2 from City. They're De Bruyne and Mahrez. Manchester United is Rashford and Fernandes, but Martial and Greenwood are still doing well. Greenwood's very clinical, by the way. So he's not showing up on certain stats. If you're a stat head and you're looking to say, where's my Greenwood? Well, he's just really, really clinical. And Leicester too. So do not ignore Leicester. Vardy's there and Iheanacho. That's a partnership up front that's working now. And then you've got Spurs. Harry Kane is there. He hasn't even played tonight and he's still there. The reason I mention all of them, that is showing these are the players that we should perhaps be targeting. I'm pleased having Pulisic. Anyone's got Willian as well, I think they should be pleased. Antonio, City, United. Harry Kane is there. I talk about broken sword, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's been fixed. But I think there, it's an interesting to look at that expected goal involvement stats to see that there are perhaps better options than Salah out there, and perhaps him. I haven't even mentioned Jimenez. He's nowhere near it as well. So So, Andy, let's move on, because I briefly mentioned Manchester United and City as well. So, I'd keep going about tripling up, but everyone's going about tripling up, aren't they? What are the community saying?
Yeah, I'm loving FPL life at the moment. We just get to talk about Man United every single week on every single show. It's great. Questions asked question. So Man City and Man United triple ups. Too many players to choose from. Not enough spaces. The community, as I said, keen to keep or for us to continue discussing it. So a few questions. We'll split these. We'll do United first, then City. So FPL Johnson is the best United triple up. Still 1 defender, 2 attack. Bournemouth did look the best for attackers, but moving on, should it be basically 2 attackers or 3 attackers essentially? FPL 2-time has Martial won the Martial versus Rashford battle. And then the Man City questions. Carl Watson, is triple up on Man City too risky? FPL Smoggy, please talk about Greenwood and Foden. How important are they in terms of price and power points? And then Inglorious FPL, what to do with Mahrez? So yeah, Mahrez came off for 60 minutes. Now everyone's suddenly panicking about that. So let's start with the Man United questions. I'll come to you first, Az. So there's too many players to choose from. Going forward, do you still think triple attack is the best form of attack, I guess? Or would you go for 1 defender, 2 attackers if you could pick right now?
Well, let me ask you this. Why have I got De Gea in goal?
I mean, that is a good question. I mean, he probably is the worst out of all the defensive picks in the first place.
Yes. Well, thanks for that. Yep. I mean, the reason why I went for De Gea was because I thought I fancied the attacking defence, triple ups. I've got Aurier, Doherty, and Alexander-Arnold, who I thought, even if they concede, good fixtures and could get goals. So that's my reasoning for that. But the more I watch of United, the more I think, wow, I really need to tap into this, because I just can't see any signs of it slowing down. I just think the fixtures just remain so ridiculously good that they're all capable of scoring and huge points. And I mean, in some ways, I know we're going to talk about City in a minute, but I think they're the kind of the polar opposite to City in some ways, because if you get 3 City players in, you're hoping that one of them gets a massive haul, because the other 2 are going to get benched or come on for 20 minutes or whatever. Whereas United, you've got 3, you're expecting them all to haul every week. It's absolutely crazy. So to me, the three best United players to own is pretty simple. It's Fernandes, captain every week to the end of the season, which is probably what I'm going to do. It's Greenwood, because the money you get from the saving over Rashford lets you do wonders with the rest of your squad. And it's Martial, because he's an out of position midfielder playing up front. And I think, Andy, I hate to concede anything to you really, but he is delivering almost week in, week out with big hauls. You can't It's
Oh,
hard.
Martial. This is this
Martial.
Anthony inconsistent Martial
This is
who scored
Anthony
again at the weekend.
inconsistent Martial. He is looking really good. I mean, to be fair, I'd say a lot of that Bournemouth game was old, frustrating Martial, with him looking a little bit like he couldn't be bothered to be on the pitch. But wow, did he turn it on with that goal? I mean, absolutely incredible. So yeah, I think those three are really strong. I mean, the defense is good. I mean, Wan-Bissaka was unlucky again not to have a third straight assist. It would have been pretty horrible if United had scored that with a Wan-Bissaka assist and a Rashford goal. I think for all three of us, because I don't think any of us have got Rashford, have we, or Wan-Bissaka? So I don't think he's a terrible option, but he's the only one that I'd be considering. But I honestly think the triple up in attack is so strong, and after this week, I'm looking at getting those three in, because yeah, it's looking very appealing.
Really nice indeed. What about you, Joe? Are you
Yeah.
thinking along the same lines, or you got a different thought?
Well, I mean, I think the Bournemouth game was perfect for the Manchester United triple up. So it's not a case. I'm not fully like, let's triple up. But because I was talking about the captaincy and about you can get a red arrow even when your Manchester United assets don't do well. So you've got to really maximise there. So they will get clean sheets. And Wan-Bissaka will get an assist. So I think Wan-Bissaka and Fernandes and Greenwood or Martial is a good combination as well. Villa were surprisingly good defensively at the moment. So I don't know. There could be more of a clean sheet match. It won't be like 5 goals to Manchester United. Maybe a couple of goals. Maybe it's Fernandes. Fernandes and Rashford are now sharing penalties. So we sort of knew that before, and we've had it confirmed now, really, just by their actions on the pitch. So even with it's hard for me to pick. I've got Greenwood and Fernandes at the moment, but I wouldn't categorically say it was Greenwood, Fernandes, and Martial. But I do think it's important to really load up on them, because they are all capable.
Are you going to bring in a third then this week?
I haven't got. Well, I've got. Don't know.
You sound so stressed at that
If
question.
so, which one is it going to be?
If I did bring another one in, it would be Martial, and it would be Martial, and I would end up with, well, as we're saying, Martial, Green, because but I do have a space also for Wan-Bissaka, but I think I prefer, and I'll probably mention them a bit later because I think I've got them in my notes, Luca Dean or Azpilicueta for that role. I think I prefer them to Wan-Bissaka, and at the moment I've got Salah, who could move on to Martial, but I'm not sure. So yeah, but I think probably sums up what people in the community think as well. You've got to get more of them, and for which ones, I think the jury is still out. But Greenwood, amazing value, and he's just so clinical as well. Expected goal involvement, he's just right at the bottom. He was expected over the last 4 matches to have half a goal. And what's he ended up with? 3. He was expected to have 0.68 goal involvement. So he's expected to either assist or score, not even a goal. And yeah, he's racked up an assist, 3 goals. Whereas Rashford's underperforming, arguably. Expected goal involvement 3. Yes, he's got a couple of assists and a goal there, but he could easily get some more goals there. He really should have had a few more. And Fernandes is just doing Fernandes things, and I think you are right about captaining him all the time, because I think the only way you're going to get a green arrow after a Manchester United match is you've got to just completely max out on them. Because I cannot see them not doing well in any of the matches. Just a degree of which.
You must be so happy with this, Andy. You must be just so happy with this.
I've been saying this for 4 years. I called this 4 years ago. It just took 4 seasons to actually happen. But yeah, I'll quickly give my input. It's not really that much different. I think I would probably still go 3 attackers. I will say, Bournemouth at home was about as good as it's going to get for the rest of the season, I think, in terms of, scoring 5 goals in a single game. Like Villa, Southampton, Palace, West Ham, is there a 4 or 5 goal game there? I don't know if I would bet too much money on that happening. So I've kind of chilled out a little bit, because I've even thought about using a -4 to swap Maguire out to Greenwood. But I don't know if I'm going to do that. I mean, if I had Wan-Bissaka, I probably definitely wouldn't. Maguire's a little bit different because you're really relying on those set piece goals. But I mean, there's still going to be points around. Even like my thoughts about Greenwood maybe getting benched at some point for Daniel James, I don't even think I'd worry about that now. He's just so cheap, and he's just playing too good to drop anyway.
Yeah.
So he's going to keep playing. So that is the biggest draw with him. He's such an enabler. Like Rashford, probably a little bit unlucky not to get more points in that Bournemouth game. And I still don't think I would necessarily swap Rashford to Greenwood unless I really needed the money. But if I was picking from the start, it would be Greenwood all the way. But I think that upcoming fixtures, I don't think you need to panic about having a defender. I don't think there'll be as many goals. But then again, the way we're playing, we've finally got a team that can unlock defences. So who knows?
It's amazing because you seem really good against the open teams because you've got the pace and the counter and all that. But then against the teams who defend deep, you've got Pogba and Fernandes just to unlock them. So
yeah, exactly. Which we never had before.
Yeah, you look at the games left and you think you've got answers. I think to all the teams you've got. I think there's the goals are going to carry on. I think so much confidence and form going into them.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Man City then, because I think it's a little bit more difficult to choose whether to have three and which three as well. So just quick reminder of the questions. Is a triple up on Man City too risky? How important is Foden in terms of price and power points? We kind of already talked about Greenwood for that question. What to do with Mahrez? So I'll start with you this time first, Joe. What are you doing about who do you already own from Man City? Just remind us about that. And what are your plans with them going forward?
I've got KDB and Mahrez. I'm happy with it. It is the same principle as as Manchester United. You're going to get a red arrow. If you just own KDB, get a red arrow. Doesn't matter what he does. You'll get a red arrow because there's so many people captain him. So many people have Mahrez, Sterling, Foden. Jesus might eventually score. Or they might keep a clean sheet. Loads of people have got a Manchester City defender, maybe Ederson. You can't just get by anymore with KDB. So I've got KDB and Mahrez. Very happy with them, and I would consider. I've only got one more space there. I'd love to have more, but Sterling or Foden would be one of those two. They're the ones I would go for. Kevin De Bruyne, expected goal involvement as well. I was obviously looking at that particular table before this show, but De Bruyne is top. There's no surprise there. But Mahrez is second, Jesus, and then Sterling, and then Foden. So it's showing how clinical Foden is. He's taking his chances there. But for me, I think KDB and Mahrez are the best, and one is Sterling, Foden, and I think. I'm sick of getting red arrows from my players doing well, and it's starting to really annoy me. I'm wondering if there's a flaw with me or the game or something. That can't be fun. Hey, look, Greenwood's got 13 points, red arrow, and that's not right. That's not fun. So the only one, just get loads of them.
Do you think it's a risk at all?
What, a risk getting 3 Man City players in now?
Yeah, because obviously we saw just because of the benches, I suppose, that we know there's going to be rotation. We saw Mahrez and Sterling get hooked on 60. So next week Mahrez might not even start. Could be Foden and De Bruyne. Maybe Sterling and Mahrez get a rest. Do you think that's a risk, or is it just a risk worth taking?
Southampton defence were amazing. Not every defence is going to play like that on that day. Not even the Southampton defence are going to play like that again. That could be it for them. I don't mind 30 minutes of Mahrez. I don't mind 30 minutes of KDB. With the way it's panning out, some of them might get a full rest. And as it's panning out into the cup games as well, there might be, Pep Guardiola might be thinking, shall I rest them for that? We might only see 59 minutes a match for Mahrez for the duration. I'll take 59 minutes of Mahrez. I'm missing out on appearance point, but he might have got a brace before then. I don't mind. With Man City and Manchester United, I don't mind. And there's so much value. If you've got Greenwood and Foden in the mix there's so much value. Mahrez is really good value. He's sub 9 million, but he's performing like 10 million. That's just really, really good value. Foden, was he 5 point something? He's an 8 million midfielder.
Super cheap, yeah.
He's mini David Silva, but really cheap.
Joe
Allen prices.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I saw a tweet by FPL Chance before we went live. It said Man City's 3 home games since the restart: 3-0, 5-0, 4-0, and the next 3 or their final 3 home games are Newcastle, Bournemouth, Norwich. So it doesn't really get much better than that. So I'll talk about what I'm going to do in a set. What about you, Az? What's your kind of what's your Man City plans?
Well, I kind of agree with Joe, but I also don't agree with Joe. That's unusual, isn't it? In the sense that I agree that KDB isn't enough. I think you have to make the decision right now, right at this second, whether you're going to back him till the end of the season and you're going to get in another one or two, or you're going to avoid him completely. Because if you think the rotation is too much, I think you ditch KDB and you get in someone who you think is going to play more minutes and is going to hopefully outscore him. And you use that, the ultimate shield pick is De Bruyne because everyone's got him. Get rid of him and get in a sword who you think is going to score. I'm not doing that. Just for the record, that's why I've got Sterling in, because I think Sterling has the potential. He's got a 1 pointer against Southampton, but I think he's a player with the most likely potential between now and the end of the season of getting a 20-pointer based on the fixtures that they've got left. So I'm happy to run the gauntlet and try and get a massive haul from him. Three players. You're really sort of, like I said earlier, I think you're really hoping that one of them gets a big haul, and I think that's okay because if you get Sterling, Mahrez, and De Bruyne, and Sterling gets 20 points and the other two get 2 points, just look at it as an average of three. You imagine they've all got 7 points. You can look at it like that because you're buying loads of tickets to try and get a huge return. So I personally think that's the way to look at it. I can understand why people are doing it, and I think you've got enough options in there. I think Mahrez, Sterling, De Bruyne, and Foden are all great options. Foden's price is incredible at 5.3, but with Greenwood's emergence, I think it's less important than it would be if Greenwood wasn't in the picture. So if Greenwood wasn't around, I'd be getting Foden and I'd be looking to upgrade the rest. If I downgraded Son to Foden, I have no idea what I'd do with that extra 4 million. There's, it's very difficult to see how I would get used at the moment. I mean, maybe I'd upgrade sort of Calvert-Lewin to Vardy, but then I've got a too strong a team, and I'd have to bench one of them, and the benching isn't really working, as you can see, because people have got strong benches, and players aren't missing games completely. They're coming off the bench or stuff. That's the thing. You have a strong bench, but you're not kind of making the most use of it. So yeah, I think that's. I think 2 City players is a fun way to play the game because you've got potential, but I see people without De Bruyne, and I think Mark at the moment hasn't got De Bruyne, and I think it's a viable strategy. So it's just how you want to play, how you think it's going to go.
Yeah, I've got De Bruyne and Mahrez as well, which is starting to feel like a bit templatey at the moment, even though Mahrez's ownership is still fairly low. Like, the question what to do with him, I'm absolutely keeping there. Like, he might not start the next game, and that would be frustrating, but there is a chance. I think as good as City were, and they should have probably won that game. It was so strange to take off Mahrez and Sterling because they were kind of on top at that point, and after that they struggled a bit. Yeah. So hopefully Pep might realise that, and also realise that Sterling started quite a few games recently.
No, don't add that bit in.
I'm just saying Sterling started quite a few games, so maybe Mahrez is going to start and Sterling's going to be benched. But either way, I'm potentially looking to triple up. Now I'm kind of going round in circles about not necessarily how aggressive to be with transfers towards the end of the season, but where to use them. So do I rotate my striker spot, for example, and keep my midfield set, or do I rotate in midfield? So, for example, I quite like Foden this week, but maybe I swap him out for Antonio or someone the week after and try and play the rotation a little bit. The other option I've considered as well, for people looking to triple up, is to leave my third spot for now and see who gets rested or rotated or whatever you want to call it before the Bournemouth game, and then get in whoever missed out the game before and just go for that Bournemouth game. So I still quite like Jesus. I know he hasn't scored yet, and I know he's missed way too many chances. I've seen plenty of talk about them needing a striker that can kind of convert those chances, but he's not that bad a player where he's going to keep missing these chances. He should. I almost felt sorry for him against Southampton. How he didn't score,
but that's the problem.
Know.
That's the problem. When you've got a player who you genuinely feel sorry for, you just think how bad their confidence is. Your Man U fan is feeling sorry for their main striker. He is gone. His head's gone. I thought when we first came back, I honestly thought he was like a man on a mission. All these Instagram posts, he was really fit and got this trainer in and stuff. I just think he's genuinely terrible, and he's got no confidence, and I wouldn't go anywhere near him. Personally.
The only reason why I'm considering it really is because up front, we talked about Greenwood already and maybe Kane, but I don't feel like there's any standout options right now, at least with the fixtures. Look, maybe Danny Ings for the last 3 will be that must-buy player. But up front, I'm not too sure. Whereas in midfield, I agree that any of them can get a haul on one day, but we all know they could get rotated the next one. There's some pretty solid midfield options that aren't going to get rotated. Pulisic, Antonio, as two examples who I'm looking at. So I could get them and then run the risk with Jesus, who I think is going to get pretty good minutes.
But for nearly the same price, you could have Vardy going for the Golden Boot.
Yeah. I could get Vardy in against Bournemouth. This is what I mean. That's why I'm thinking about going for the striker, because you can kind of move them around a bit every single week. Like defensive, I'll talk about my team at the end, but I just feel like a lot of the players I have right now, I'm kind of set with, so I can use my transfers quite aggressively for the rest of the season. So I wouldn't discount Jesus completely. I see why people don't want him, but I don't know. He has to score soon. Given the amount of chances he's getting, he has to.
He's a joke.
He's not that bad. I think you prove people wrong.
I think we have to use. This is where I mean, I like the stats as well, but at this stage of the season, I'm really looking at the eye test because of the rotation and the rest. Are they looking tired? And some people can look at maybe one and not the other, and look at the result and think another way. So, one of the people in the live chat actually, Vince Grealish, was saying that Mahrez played bad against Southampton and got 1 point. Well, I don't know what game he was watching, but Mahrez played really well. Southampton played really well. That was the problem. No one was getting past. That players. So it was very, very. It's very important to look at the eye test and don't look at the result. Don't look at Man City getting beaten 1-0 by Southampton and think Man City are bad. Just look at that and go, wow, get Jack Stevens in. But Mahrez is still a great player, and I thought he was playing well. Yeah, he may get benched, but I'm convinced if he gets minutes and he's on the pitch, he's going to do well. Same for Sterling. Sterling are really good. I was really tempted to get Sterling in, like one of those. I'm not like a knee jerky person for the transfers. Like I've done it before with Eden Hazard. I think see a match, get him in. But I thought Sterling, even though he was hooked at 59 minutes. I thought Sterling looked really dangerous.
Yeah, he looks really sharp. Yeah. Since the restart, he's looked really good.
Salah to Sterling is something I've considered as well. And the other thing to say on that game is De Bruyne obviously didn't start. We're all expecting to start the next one. That's going to hugely benefit whoever else starts around him as well, because he will be a bit of a difference maker.
Yeah, no. Let's move on to another team, as Spurs against Whipping Boys Bournemouth. So it's kind of a dual thing here. Do we invest in Spurs, but do we just target anyone playing Bournemouth?
Whipping Boys versus the Whipping Boys, I think is how this one's going to be billed. So Spurs take on, Bournemouth. Oh, God. Yeah, they look terrible. The trouble is Spurs also look terrible. But, what can go wrong with that? So, got quite a few questions. I mean, people like Andy considering bringing in Kane. So FPL SWAT is shifting funds from Salah or another premium asset to Kane. A mistake waiting to happen. Who was it when everyone bought him in? I was against Cardiff, wasn't it? Everyone bought him in for that game.
Yeah, I did.
Me too. Bilal says, do we hold Son for Bournemouth, or do we accept he's an overpriced winger in a poor team? I mean, when you put it like that, it makes me think, why have I got him? It's quite a damning assessment of him and pretty accurate. And Pranav just asked simply, is Kane worth a hit against Bournemouth? So we've got some stats on the screen just to show how bad Bournemouth are. Conceding loads of goals, highest XG, second highest big chances conceded. So, you've got to think that Spurs are going to get chances against them. And Kane is looking better. I think he's come quite far since that United game when he was almost looking like a left back at times. He is getting into more dangerous positions. He is having lots of shots. He had the ball in the net loads of times, like we saw. So. He's 10.9, which is probably the cheapest he's been for years and years now. The thing is, can we actually trust them reliably to score some goals, even against Bournemouth? So Andy, come on, sell Harry Kane to me.
I almost feel like a little bit hesitant to try and sell Harry Kane, because I know what could happen, and then I'll hear all about it. I'm definitely considering the target Bournemouth strategy, though. I even tweeted kind of jokingly about it. You can get Kane this week, Vardy the week after plays Bournemouth, then you go for Jesus against Bournemouth, and then I think it's Calvert-Lewin, then Danny Ings, or Ings, then Calvert-Lewin, one other way around. But they all play Bournemouth, and they haven't looked great at all. So I'm strongly considering it. I think it would, for me, and I expect a lot of other people that don't already have a premium striker, is going to involve selling someone like Salah or Kevin De Bruyne or whoever it might be to fund it. And the fact that it's 2 moves, if you don't have 2 free transfers to do it, then it suddenly becomes a hit. In my case, it's also selling Calvert-Lewin, who has Southampton at home. So it suddenly doesn't necessarily sound as good when I say it out loud. But I think Kane, I already talked before, I think last week, about I thought Kane looked good against West Ham and I was monitoring him. And then against Sheffield United, he had the ball in the back of the net 4 times. Obviously, only one of them counted. But I don't know. I think he is playing more central. He is still dropping deep. I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. To be fair, I've not checked the heat map, so maybe it is. But from watching the games, it doesn't feel that bad. He's definitely kind of the focal point, whereas before lockdown, it may have even been like Son in that kind of space instead. It doesn't really look like that's how they're playing at the moment. And I just think Bournemouth is such a good game. And like I said, I've kind of got this idea that I get a premium striker in because there's a few different options I might want to try out before the end of the season. But it is sacrificing Salah, but I've kind of come to terms with that already. Kane, I think he's second highest expected goal involvement. Joe might have already said that for the whole since restart, but obviously he has tonight's game to overtake Antonio, so that could happen as well. He hasn't got a penalty yet. That's an easy way to top up points. You know he's going to start every week. He's not a rotation threat like Man City players. He's going to get 80 to 90 minutes most games. I don't know. There's just something about him. The only thing I'll say about him from a negative point of view is after Bournemouth, the fixtures aren't fantastic for Spurs. I wouldn't expect him to do that well. Yes, he's looked okay at times, and so have Spurs, but only okay. Not enough where I would then back them for all the fixtures afterwards. So for me, it pretty much is a 1 week punt, and I probably will then look to move him on, even though I know he's got a good record against Arsenal, but I may look to move him on. So, yeah, 10 shots, 5 of them in the box. I think those 10 shots he's had I think that's more than kind of Bergwijn, Mora and Son put together, if I remember from looking at it before. 4 big chances, a few of them were versus West Ham. And I've got in my notes, Bournemouth are rubbish. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking at him. So, I quite like the look of Harry Kane right now. Son is a bit of a worry. I think what I will say is a lot of people are about to wait for the Everton game to make their decisions. But that Everton game is not going to be easy. So I don't think them not doing fantastic in that game will put me off. Because I'm already kind of thinking about it anyway. So I do think that Everton game will be tough. I suppose it depends just where kind of Son plays. But yeah, I'm genuinely looking at Harry Kane. I think I might just go for it because if I'm not captaining Salah anyway, and I'm 200 odd K, why not just take the punt and see what happens and go from there. So yeah, I am strongly looking at it. Could it go wrong? Absolutely.
I mean, I did a bit of sort of crunching on the members area of Harry Kane. So what I thought was just compare Harry Kane since the restart back to when he was, sort of playing his best football. So sort of 2017 when he was going up against Salah for the Golden Boot. And I mean, even though we're saying Kane is looking better since the restart, he's having half as many touches in the box. He's having half as many shots. And not creating as many chances for teammates. So everything's almost halved compared to when he was prime Kane hitting 30 goals regularly. So that kind of thing is quite discouraging, especially when you consider the fixtures Spurs have had since coming back. I mean, they've had West Ham, they've had Sheffield United. These are games which I'd be hoping that Kane would be showing a lot of promise in. And although I think he's looked better, he still doesn't scream, I need to get this guy in, even though they've got a great fixture left. I mean, Son's exactly the same. I mean, I'm massively concerned with owning Son because he's shifted out so wide and he's just not looking threat going through the middle like he has done. And part of that, I think, is because maybe Kane isn't dropping as deep as you say, and isn't letting Son run off past him. So actually, I kind of want a Kane that's dropping back to kind of allow Son to break a bit more. So I think they're definitely a concern. I don't think it's worth taking huge hits to bring these guys in. I think if you've got them, you leave them and then you reassess after this Bournemouth game. But I'm not convinced that a 4-point hit or an 8-point hit is worth it for Kane personally, unless you're going to captain him and you really think he's going to do better than someone like Fernandes or De Bruyne at home to Newcastle, which again I don't think he will. So for me, it's a no. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of sort of narratives going on at the moment with Spurs. And one is from the stats tell you this, the stats we got up on the screen. So it says Bournemouth expected goals conceded 6.77. They've in fact conceded 12. Big chances conceded 10. So they're really bad. But the only team with the worst expected goals conceded, bear in mind this is from the restart, is Spurs themselves. So that's not saying that Spurs are going to concede a hatful. That means just that the rest of their players, their attacking players, are going to have to do more defensive work to counter these expected goals conceded all the time. So that means there's a higher chance that we will see Kane annoyingly dropping deeper, because they all are. They're all going to be a bit more defensive. And the other narrative that's going on at the moment is that it comes at a really good time. So we know that Bournemouth are whipping boys. Kane is against Bournemouth, and it comes at the same time when Salah is suddenly no longer captainable. So those either wanting to take a hit or with 2 free transfers, you move your Salah and a forward to Kane and perhaps Phil Foden or another one of these remarkably bargain midfielders, and suddenly you've got quite an enticing move. And it's something that a late riser on the Scoutcast has said many times about high impact moves. And Kane captain this week, when he's low owned against a terrible defence, is a really good high impact differential move to claw up the rankings. But it's also a move to fall down the rankings, because it happens to be in a week where KDB is at home to Newcastle and will be possibly effective ownership above 100%, and also when Manchester United just happen to be brilliant and are playing Villa. So that's the interesting situation that people are faced with at the moment. But I like the narrative of it, and I can completely see why it makes sense. Ditch Salah and somehow get Kane in, captain him against Bournemouth. What can go wrong?
And I think what Andy said as well, I mean, having Kane in does allow you to move around more flexibly. Yeah. So, you could in theory get Kane in for this week and then move him to Vardy and attack the Bournemouth fixture again with Vardy. And I think that is, I think if you're chasing mini leagues and you're looking for something a bit different, I think that is quite a strong tactic.
I just wanted to mention Aurier, because I have him, and whilst he's not as fabulous as Pulisic or any of the other players I've got in, like Greenwood, I still like him. I still want to have him on my side. He's had 3 chances, which isn't bad for a semi-cheap defender. 3 chances created so far. I see at Bournemouth, he's either going to get a red card or a double-digit haul. I can't see a sort of a middle ground with it.
Yeah.
He's like the band. He's like the band The Fall. You either love them or you hate them, but no one goes, "Oh, I quite like that band The Fall," and that's what he is really. So. He's going nowhere. But as I was saying before, top of my wish list really isn't Kane. It's players like Luca Dean and Azpilicueta, which is massively dullard and boring of me. But I'm looking at like the attacking defender stats last 4 game weeks, and Azpilicueta is created 8 chances, and he's had a couple of shots inside the box as well. He's a sort of a 6 million-ish defender, so we're talking double-digit haul potential here. Luca Dean as well, 6 chances created. He's had 6 corners, 4 of those, 4 successful crosses. I mean, these are just generally nice stats that say double-digit haul if they can keep a clean sheet. And so you could end up with a similar points return from a player half the price who's really boring and dullard and plays at the back. And so that's sort of what my type of play is leaning towards. Plus, I'd have to take a hit to get Kane in, and I cannot face getting Kane in for a hit against Bournemouth when he'll get me 2 points, and my entire game week will be resting on Harry Kane's shoulders. But I just thought I'd mention that with
you continue to surprise me though this season, Joe. I mean, with Aurier, he seems like such an anti-Joe type player. Like you said to me earlier in the season, you get your defenders for clean sheets, your bread and butter, everything else is a bonus. And now you're here saying you like Aurier because he's so hit or miss.
Well, I like
15
him
points or 1 point.
I've always liked defenders who've got the potential for a double-digit return, whether they're a centre-back that rises like a salmon when there's a corner, or it's one of an attacking fullback like Luca Dean. I wish I had Doherty in my side. But
they're pretty much wingers, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're basically playing for a winger.
Patrick Van Aanholt. So looking at the top attacking defenders is Azpilicueta, Chilwell, who I understand is going to possibly injured this week. But Van Aanholt is in there as well. Alexander Arnold is in there. That's why Alexander Arnold's not going. That's the potential, and Aurier's sort of in that bracket. I don't mind having him at all. So there we go. So do you want us to?
Spurs?
Yeah. Do you want to? Have you got anything else to say about Spurs, or shall we just move on?
I think move on.
Let's move on. Let's go move on. Clean sheet. So I mentioned about defenders. I like double-digit hauls. Andy, have you got a nice picture on the screen about the clean sheets next 4? Come on, next 5 actually. So we've just gone right up till game week 38. May as well just go for it here. Who are the teams with the best defensive clean sheet potential for now until the end?
Yeah, looking fixtures. I mean, a lot of them, the teams we've already spoken about. So Liverpool, Man United. If you're not going for the triple Man United attack, then defender could be a good option. Villa, Southampton, Crystal Palace away, West Ham at home, and Leicester away. So pretty decent run all the way to the end. Maybe a little bit more interesting. Man City defenders. I think a few people in the chat were asking about Garcia. He's only 4.5 million. Has started the last 2. I kind of said this earlier to Neil though, and Neil's response was, "Yeah, that if he started the last 2, that makes me think he probably won't start the next one," which is pretty accurate. So that's the only thing that puts me off. But Newcastle at home, Brighton away, Bournemouth at home, Watford away, Norwich at home. I mean, if you really want to back that, you just go for Ederson. I think, like even Laporte, I'm not even convinced will start.
I like him actually. I like Garcia as a 4.5 because they've got such little faith in their centre backs with Otamendi and Stones and Fernandinho coming in. I mean, I think they're going to have to buy a big name in the summer, and I think Pep is almost saying to Garcia, "Look, I'm going to give you a chance now. You perform well until the end of the season, and maybe you've got a chance next year." So I think he's going to play most minutes.
To be fair as well, the games he hasn't played, he's completely missed out. So it could be worth a punt if you've got a good bench option as well.
Yeah,
potentially. So they are good fixtures. So yeah, 4.5. I don't know if that's where I would use one of my transfers right now, but maybe if you need an enabler or something, it could be decent. West Ham, Burnley at home, Norwich away, Watford at home, Man United as well, not too good, but then Villa at home. I guess if you really want to make another goalkeeper swap, Fabianski. I've made so many goalkeeper swaps this year. I'd maybe even consider it.
You sticking with Foster?
Yeah. Moving on. Everton up next. Southampton at home, Wolves away, Villa at home, Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home. Again, we talked about already. Everton defence has actually been really good under Ancelotti. So Lucas Digne, who I'm sure Joe's going to talk about in a minute, decent. So yeah, there's a lot of other teams. Tottenham, Southampton, Leicester, and Watford are on there as well. Not convinced I would be back in Watford defence right now, although for the next 2, Norwich and Newcastle, maybe Foster will get a couple of points there. So yeah, plenty of teams to target. I think the top ones we spoke about already, decent as well. Yeah, Manchester in particular.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so lots there. I mean, what we've got to expand that sort of the season ticket out a little bit, moving down sort of Watford middling. But Watford have that Norwich and Newcastle at home, and that's why us Foster owners still have faith. And incidentally,
I don't have any faith.
Incidentally, he outscored massively Nick Pope at the weekend. So that is a major achievement for us Foster owners. We deserve it for our.
I'm sticking a $5 on Pookie scoring this week.
We deserve it for our excellent move in getting Foster in over Nick Pope. Anyway, let's move on to differentials. So we've had some successes with Antonio. The jury's still out on Jesus. Foden still has a bit to prove, as in to turn up, basically. Less said about Nketiah and Richie the better. So today it's Az's turn to pick a differential for the next 4 weeks who is owned by no more than 5% of FPL managers. Az, Who is your differential?
Well, I think when you're looking at who to bring in for your teams as someone a bit different, you need to be looking at someone who's got something to play for. Teams that have got something to play for, I think, are doing quite well. I think West Ham have actually hit a bit of form at kind of the right time, in the sense that they need to stay up, but also they've got a good run of fixtures coming. So Burnley at home, they've got Norwich, they've got Watford, they've got Villa, United sandwiched in between those, but playing again three of the 4 worst teams in the league in those 3. So I really like the Antonio pick, Joe. I think he, an out of position midfielder. He's playing really well. He scored. He was on the goals minimum table for ages. He looks fantastic. The only concern with him is him getting an injury or something. And has he actually got the ability to play every minute for now in the season? I'm not so sure about. And I think they've got Haller coming back as well. But I think he is still a really strong option. Particularly if say you're in a mini league and everyone's buying in Pulisic. I think Antonio is someone around the same price who could do a job for you. Obviously, I can't have him because you've got him, and his ownership is 1%. That's still crazy low. But I have also been really impressed with Bowen Jared Bowen, who's he's obviously plays in a bit of a different role because he's kind of everywhere. When you look at his heat map, his heat maps, back at his own corner flag. He's getting touches in the penalty area. He's on the left wing. He's on the right wing. He's a very all action player, and he seems like a good signing. He seems like he's finally gelling since signing in January. His stats aren't as good as Antonio's, but he is still doing enough to make me think that he's a good option, and he's cheaper than Antonio as well. So he's only 6.4 million as well. So he's had 10 penalty area touches to Antonio's 14 in the last 2 game weeks. He's had 3 goal attempts, and he's creating a chance every 34 minutes. So I like him, and I might be bringing him in for that Norwich game as well.
I approve, especially, do you know what? Ultra sword attack here. If you have Antonio, get Bowen as well, because they're turning into a bit of a Wilson, Fraser, or Pulisic, Willian. They're turning into that. You're getting the scorer and the assister, and they're both really differential. So you're getting that double hit there. So it's huge gains there, and that can mitigate against perhaps not having a Manchester City or Manchester United triple up. You've suddenly got this very unusual double up in differentials there, and I think that could be a really good move. Yeah, I approve.
0.2% owned, Jared Bowen.
Wow, and I can't even begin. There's probably only 100 FPL managers who've got Bowen and Antonio. You've got to be full on West Ham fan, but they're both good. They're both getting the points. I've got a cheeky backup one. Armstrong at Southampton, someone I was talked about a few weeks ago. He really impressed against Man City. The games at Southampton, so they've got Everton, Manchester United up next, but you never know. He played really well, I think, but you're getting him in ahead of Brighton, Bournemouth and Sheffield United towards the end. Even if you perhaps don't want to go for Foden, because I think Foden is still probably in that price bracket, around the 5 million mark, is still probably the best bet. But if you don't want to go down that route, or in fact you want to free up money for elsewhere in your team, I think he's a really good differential enabler, 0.4% owned, and Phil, as a nice deputy to your Bowen pick, which I think is really good. I think it's really good, and even for Antonio owners as well. Let's move on to the next game week. So we've got our decisions to make, who we're going to captain. So I'll go first. So this is me. So the past couple of weeks I've said, I'm not going to do anything, or I'm going to do something boring, and I end up taking a hit and getting someone exciting in, like Pulisic or Greenwood in this case this week. So I'm still rocking a 3-5-2. I've got Foster in goal. Brilliant Foster, by the way. He's better than Nick Pope. Bolly, Alexander-Arnold, Aurier as my backline. Pulisic, Fernandes, Salah, De Bruyne, who I'm going to captain, and Mahrez. And 2 reasons I'm going to captain De Bruyne. 1, simple. I think he's going to score the most points. And 2, if I don't captain De Bruyne and I just go into that with De Bruyne and Mahrez, I could end up with a red arrow from that. I've got Jimenez and Greenwood up top. And then on my bench, I've got McCarthy and Stevens ready to rack up the points. Fernandes with a Z at Newcastle, and Calvert-Lewin. And reluctantly benching Calvert-Lewin. I'm not sure. I've kept him on the bench because I'm sort of parking him. I don't know what to do with him yet, because every time I have good fixtures.
I'm tempted to play him over Jimenez.
And I could play him over Jimenez, but Mrs. Jimenez might have something to say about that by popping out a baby. So Calvert-Lewin could come in there. Or I could bench boost, if I think. But I've got this weird situation with the bench boost where I'm betting on Calvert-Lewin scoring and somehow Southampton keeping a clean sheet. So that's why Gameweek 36 probably looks better for me. But I have money to upgrade Fernandes to Luca Dean, for example, Aspilicueta. But I might do that a bit later. So at the moment, long way of saying, I'm probably going to do nothing this week. And I think I mean it this week. I'd like to go into Gameweek 36 with 2 transfers, because I'd like to bench boost there and I want to try and maximise that, and I'll have a bit of might have some hints around rotation and things like that then. So I'm going to resist.
Another hit coming in, Joe.
I know. So I'm just going to take a massive hit. I'm going to get Jared Bowen and Antonio in. I'll be done with it. But no, I'm going to try and stay firm with this one, because hits really are quite Moorish, but I'm going to just try and resist. Andy, let's have a look at your team. So I'm just going to, for the benefit of people on podcast, you also have the mighty Foster in goal, best goalkeeper. Sace, Alexander-Arnold and Maguire. 3-5-2 as well. Fernandes, De Bruyne, who you're captaining. Salah, Mahrez, Martial, and out front you've got Calvert-Lewin and Jimenez. And your bench is pretty good. Egan, who could score again. Taylor against West Ham. You've got Nketiah against Leicester. McCarthy in goal. So, yeah, why have you? Are you going to make any moves? And why De Bruyne, captain?
Yeah, as soon as De Bruyne was benched, I changed my captaincy to him. I could just keep on Fernandes again. Maybe I'm going to back the theory that Villa's defense has improved a little bit. And arrested De Bruyne on penalties could be great versus Newcastle. I don't think I really care about the fact that if I don't captain De Bruyne, I'll get a red arrow, because the same thing could be said of Fernandes. Like if I don't captain him and he goes nuts, that's a red arrow too. So I don't think it hugely matters in that regard. So I'm probably going to go for De Bruyne, but Fernandes has been so ridiculous. I probably should just keep it on him. In terms of transfers, I don't know. There's so many. I feel like sitting still and doing nothing is not an option when I'm ranked 260k and there's only 5 weeks left. Calvert-Lewin, I'm not convinced it's been as bad as everyone kind of makes out. Granted, a goal would help with that feeling. So if you get something against Spurs, suddenly I think he's got Southampton at home, Villa at home, and Bournemouth at home in the next 5. And suddenly I think maybe I'll actually keep him, and maybe I'll look to get rid of Jimenez. So I might move Salah on. Whether or not that's to Son for free, Foden for free, Antonio for free, whoever it might be, I don't know. Or I might take the hit for Kane. The only reason I'll take that hit for Kane is if I'm sure I want to do a bit of hokey-cokey with strikers. If not, then a hit just for Bournemouth, bearing in mind he's got Arsenal after that and Spurs fixtures aren't fantastic, I probably won't do it. But if I'm going to do that striker hokey-cokey a bit, then I may well do it. To fund it, I mean, there's so many different options for that midfield. So I'll be honest, I don't know who it will be. I'll probably decide that right up until deadline tomorrow. But Antonio is right up there. I actually think I'll probably go Antonio or Foden ahead of Pulisic at this point. I just think his returns have been steady, but it's Sheffield United and Crystal Palace up next. I would just hope as a non-owner that maybe they can keep him quiet. So I probably will go for those two ahead of Pulisic. Maybe.
Yeah, I noticed that Lampard this week was talking about Pulisic, highlighting he's a player that can get something out of nothing. He's the one that can be drive forward. At the moment, he's just assisting Williams' penalties, but I've got a feeling, maybe there's a hope as a Pulisic owner, he's got a 20-pointer in him somewhere. But he's looking
definitely
really
does. He already had one this year.
Yeah, he's got another one in him. I see this as a new season. Really, this is sort of a mini season.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
It feels like it. Let's have a look at your team. For the benefit of those listening on the podcast, you have David De Gea in goal, nowhere near as good as Foster, and Alexander Arnold, Doherty, and Aurier, and then you've got at 3-5-2 as well. Sterling, De Bruyne, Son, perma captain Fernandes with an S, Pulisic, Jimenez, and Greenwood up top, and then on your bench you've got you benching Calvert-Lewin as well, and you've got Justin and Lascelles and Martinez. So pretty strong bench there with having Calvert-Lewin first sub. Any moves planned?
Yeah, well, I mean, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez is kind of a placeholder at the moment. I'm going to watch the match tonight and see what I think of Calvert-Lewin. If he looks like, if he gets a goal or an assist, I don't really mind him being on my bench this week. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I'm quite happy to kind of just watch him and see if he deserves a spot next week against Southampton. Because if he looks sharp, I'll probably play him over Jimenez. If he blanks again and doesn't really look on it, then I'll probably just stick with the safer Jimenez, who has blanked twice in 2, but that's fine. I mean, Fernandes captain, it's really, really close, I think, between him and De Bruyne. I think they're both going to be absolutely smashing the captain polls. I just kind of feel like with the way United are playing and with the fact he's so nailed to start, and the fact that United just have that extra bit of motivation, even if it gets 10% extra, like to play and to do well, then I think it just means something for United so much to get that top 4. So. And he's just been so reliable. And this season, I've struggled so much with captains. And having someone like Fernandes, who, I think he's only blanked twice since he's joined, is an amazing thing to kind of have that decision almost made for me. So it'll be one of those two, but I'm quite happy with how Fernandes has been performing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just going to say with Fernandes, he's the exact example of what we're talking about getting a red arrow when you shouldn't. And when I got Fernandes back in February, it was nice because he was quite lower owned, and he would score, and you would go, wow, that's great. But now I don't care about him unless I've captained him, and I've got a million other Manchester United players as well. And
Yep.
that's
Same
no
as
slight
Trent,
on him.
isn't it?
He's too good.
Yeah, same as Trent. It means nothing when
Yeah.
he smashes in a free kick and you go, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of transfers, though, I'm definitely banking it this week because it's great the game weeks are coming so quickly because I'm going to move pretty decisively after this because I've got the exact money to do Son and Calvert-Lewin if I don't want to play him again out for Vardy and Bowen or Antonio, which would really let me attack two absolute stand-up fixtures of West Ham. I think if people are looking to make up some ground, I think West Ham versus Norwich and Leicester versus Bournemouth next game week are really good fixtures to attack. So I want to have at least one player from each of those teams going into those. So I need the two transfers to do that.
Anyone who's got a free hit left and they're looking at that, go for it. Just go mad on West Ham and Leicester because they're not necessarily teams you want to have permanently. Or I say permanently, we've only got a few game weeks left. But yeah, that's a good tip for free hitters as well as those looking to make a move for the following week for a future Scoutcast. So yeah, just wanted to remind people, so a lot of the stats and the season ticker and things like that we'll be looking at from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Do have a look at that. Do sign up. Valuable information. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, remember to press the like button if you fancy, and also remember to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye all.